The morning sun cast long shadows across the United Nations building in New York when the first alien ship appeared in Earth's sky. Dr. Rebecca Stone was having her coffee in the observatory when the massive vessel blotted out half the horizon. The ship looked nothing like the sleek designs from human imagination. It was a brutal thing of dark metal and sharp angles, bigger than any city humanity had ever built. Within hours, similar ships appeared over every major population center on Earth. The world's media went into overdrive, but their excitement died quickly when the ships began broadcasting on every frequency. The message was simple and terrifying. Humanity would submit to the Galactic Dominion or face extinction. Rebecca rushed to the emergency session at the UN, where world leaders sat in stunned silence as they watched the alien broadcast repeat endlessly. The creature speaking called itself Ambassador Krell. Its face was covered in scales, with eyes like burning coals and teeth that could tear through steel. When it spoke, its voice carried the weight of absolute authority. "Your species has developed faster than light travel," Krell announced. "This makes you subject to Dominion law. You have violated 12 galactic regulations by expanding beyond your home system without permission. The penalty is servitude." The terms were brutal beyond imagination. 1 billion humans would be taken as workers for the Empire's mining colonies on dead worlds. Earth's military would be completely destroyed. All human technology would be turned over to Dominion control. Any resistance would result in the complete destruction of human civilization. President Maria Santos stood before the assembled delegates, her face pale but determined. She had been a soldier before entering politics, and her military training showed in how she carried herself. "How long do we have to consider these terms?" she asked. Krell's image flickered with what might have been amusement. 72 hours. Choose carefully, humans. The Dominion has destroyed over 300 species for refusing our generous offer of slavery. When the transmission ended, chaos erupted in the assembly hall. Some delegates called for immediate surrender. Others demanded they fight back with everything they had. A few simply sat in shock, unable to process the magnitude of what was happening. Rebecca found herself in an emergency meeting with the world's top scientists and military leaders. Admiral Victoria Hayes, the head of Earth's small but growing Space Navy, spread holographic displays across the conference table. The alien ships were positioned perfectly to destroy every major city on the planet within minutes. "Their technology is at least 1,000 years ahead of ours," admitted Dr. Alexander Webb, Earth's leading physicist. "Their shields can deflect our most powerful weapons. Their energy output is beyond anything we can produce. In a straight fight, we would lose in seconds." But Admiral Hayes had spent her entire career preparing for the unexpected. She studied the alien formations with the eye of someone who had fought pirates and terrorists across the solar system. "They're confident," she said quietly. "Maybe too confident. They've positioned their ships for intimidation, not for defense." Rebecca leaned forward, her mind racing through possibilities. "What if we don't give them a straight fight? What if we make them think we're surrendering while we prepare something else?" The room fell silent as everyone considered her words. Dr. Webb slowly nodded. "It would buy us time. Maybe enough time to find a weakness or develop new weapons." President Santos entered the room just as they were forming their desperate plan. She listened without interruption as they explained their ideas. When they finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "You're asking me to gamble with the entire human race," she said finally. "If we fail, they'll kill everyone." Admiral Hayes met her eyes. "Madam President, if we surrender, they'll work billions of us to death in their mines. At least this way, we die as free people." The next day, President Santos addressed the world. Her speech was carefully crafted to sound like reluctant acceptance, while actually rallying humanity to fight. She spoke of unity, of facing challenges together, of showing the universe what humanity truly was. Around the globe, the real work began. Military bases that had been shut down for decades suddenly came back to life. Scientists who had spent careers on theoretical research found themselves working on weapons that could actually be built. Engineers who had dreamed of impossible. Technology suddenly had alien wreckage to study and reverse engineer. The Dominion ships remained motionless in Earth's sky, their crews certain that humanity would submit like every other species before them. They had done this thousands of times across the galaxy. Young civilizations always chose slavery over extinction, but they didn't understand humans. In hidden laboratories around the world, Dr. Webb's teams worked frantically to unlock the secrets of alien technology. They had managed to recover small pieces of debris from the aliens' arrival, tiny fragments that contained technology beyond human understanding. Working without sleep, they began to crack the basic principles of Dominion energy systems. Admiral Hayes coordinated with resistance, cells forming on every continent. Earth's military was small compared to what was coming, but every soldier, sailor, pilot, and marine prepared for what everyone knew would be the fight of their lives. Rebecca found herself appointed as Earth's liaison to the alien fleet. She had to meet with Ambassador Krell and his staff, pretending to negotiate the terms of humanity's surrender while actually gathering intelligence about their enemies. The meetings took place aboard Krell's ship, and Rebecca was struck by how alien everything felt. The corridors were too tall, the air too thick, the gravity slightly wrong, but she forced herself to pay attention to every detail, memorizing the layout and noting potential weaknesses. Krell seemed amused by human attempts at diplomacy. "Your species shows promise," he told her during one meeting. "With proper training, humans could become valuable servants. You might even earn positions of minor authority over other slave species." Rebecca smiled and nodded, but inside, she was counting the seconds until humanity could show this creature exactly what they thought of his offer. The 72 hours were almost up. Deep beneath the Colorado mountains, Dr. Alexander Webb stared at the alien technology spread across his laboratory tables. 3 days ago, he had been a theoretical physicist studying quantum mechanics. Now he was humanity's last hope for survival. The fragments of Dominion technology they had managed to collect were small, but they contained secrets that could change everything. His team had not slept since the aliens arrived. Every minute counted as they raced to understand technology. That was thousands of years more advanced than anything humans had ever seen. The breakthrough came when his assistant, Dr. Lisa Chen, noticed something strange about the alien power cells. "Professor, look at this," she said, pointing to a holographic display showing the energy patterns inside the alien device. "The power flow isn't constant. It pulses in a very specific pattern." Webb studied the data and felt his heart racing. The pattern was familiar. He had seen something similar in his own research on quantum field manipulation. "They're using quantum cascade reactions," he whispered, "but they're doing it completely wrong." The alien technology was incredibly advanced, but it was also inefficient. The Dominion had developed their science along different paths than humanity. Where humans had focused on precision and efficiency, the aliens had simply used brute force and overwhelming power. This gave humanity an unexpected advantage. Working through the night, Webb's team began developing weapons that could exploit the weaknesses in Dominion technology. They couldn't match the aliens' raw power, but they could create weapons that would disrupt their energy systems and overload their shields. Meanwhile, Admiral Hayes was coordinating the biggest military mobilization in human history. Every ship in Earth's small space navy was being retrofitted with the new weapons Dr. Webb was developing. Commercial vessels were converted into improvised warships. Even civilian pilots volunteered to fly modified shuttles in what everyone knew would be a desperate last stand. The work was happening in complete secrecy. To the watching alien ships, Earth looked like it was preparing for surrender. Humans went about their daily lives as much as possible, But beneath the surface, the entire planet was preparing for war. Captain Thomas Reed commanded the UES Defiance, humanity's most advanced warship. It was barely 2 years old and represented the best of human engineering. Compared to the alien dreadnoughts hanging over Earth, it looked like a toy. But Reed and his crew were preparing to take on impossible odds. "Sir, the new weapons are online," reported his tactical officer, Lieutenant Mark Torres. "Dr. Webb's team says they're completely untested in actual combat." Reed nodded grimly. "Then we'll test them together. How many ships do we have ready? For the attack?" 47 combat vessels, sir, plus another 112 civilian ships that have been armed with whatever weapons we could install. The numbers were depressing. Earth's entire space fleet against thousands of alien warships. But Reed had studied military history, and he knew that desperate people could accomplish impossible things. President Santos made her final address to the world with just hours left before the Dominion deadline. She spoke carefully, knowing that alien sensors were monitoring every word. But those who knew how to listen heard the real message hidden in her speech. "We will face this challenge as we always have," she declared. "Together as one species with everything we have. We will show the universe what humanity truly is." The phrase, "what humanity truly is," was the signal. Around the world, hidden weapon systems came online. Military units moved into position. The largest coordinated attack in human history was about to begin. Ambassador Krell grew suspicious as the deadline approached. His sensors detected unusual energy readings from various points on Earth's surface, but his science officers assured him it was just primitive human technology preparing for the surrender ceremony. After all, no species had ever been foolish enough to attack the Dominion directly. On Luna Base, the secret command center humanity had built on the far side of the moon, Admiral Hayes watched countdown timers tick toward zero. Earth's entire military command structure had been moved to the base to avoid the alien sensors. From here, she would coordinate humanity's desperate gamble. Dr. Rebecca Stone stood beside her, still officially serving as Earth's diplomatic liaison with the aliens. Her real job had been to gather as much intelligence as possible about Dominion ship designs and crew locations. The information she had collected would guide humanity's attack. "All units report ready," Hayes announced to the command center. "Weapons are charged, targets are locked, and our people know what they're fighting for." The plan was simple because it had to be. Humanity would strike first with everything they had, hoping to disable as many alien ships as possible before the Dominion could respond. Dr. Webb's quantum weapons would target the aliens' power systems, while conventional missiles and energy beams focused on their weapon arrays. But everyone knew the real battle would come after the initial surprise attack. Earth's tiny fleet would have to engage thousands of alien warships in direct combat. The odds were hopeless, but humanity had decided they would rather die fighting than live as slaves. Reed received the final attack order while his ship hung in Earth's shadow, hidden from alien sensors. Around him, the other ships of humanity's fleet waited for the signal that would either save their species or destroy it completely. "This is it," he announced to his crew. "Remember, we're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting for every human who will ever be born. Make every shot count." The countdown reached 0. Across the Earth system, human weapons fired simultaneously. The battle for Earth had begun. The first quantum torpedo struck the Dominion flagship without warning. Ambassador Krell was reviewing surrender documents when his entire ship shuddered and the lights flickered. For a moment, he could not understand what was happening. No species had attacked the Dominion directly in over 2,000 years. Then the reports started flooding in from across his fleet. Human weapons were striking Dominion ships throughout the Earth system. The primitive humans were actually fighting back. Krell's scaled face twisted with rage as he realized he had been deceived. Captain Reed watched through the view screen as his torpedo slammed into the alien flagship's shields. The energy barrier flared and collapsed, something Dr. Webb had promised would happen, but Reed had hardly dared to believe. Around him, his crew cheered as they saw their impossible weapons actually working. "All ships, this is defiance," Reed broadcast to the human fleet. "Their shields are down. Hit them with everything we have." The next few minutes were chaos. Human ships appeared from hiding spots throughout the solar system, unleashing weapons that should have been powerless against advanced alien technology. But Dr. Webb's quantum cascade weapons were designed specifically to overload Dominion power systems, and they worked better than anyone had hoped. Across Earth's surface, hidden weapons platforms rose from underground bunkers. The planet itself became part of the battle as massive energy beams lanced up into space, targeting alien ships that had been positioned to threaten human cities. The Dominion had never encountered anything like it. Admiral Hayes watched the battle unfold from Luna Base, coordinating attacks and tracking damage to both fleets. The initial surprise had worked perfectly, but she knew it would not last long. The Dominion ships were recovering from the shock and beginning to return fire. "Ma'am, we've disabled 18 enemy vessels," reported her tactical officer. "But they're adapting to our weapons. Their remaining ships are raising modified shields." Hayes nodded grimly. She had expected this. The aliens were technologically superior, and they would eventually find ways to counter humanity's weapons. The question was whether Earth's fleet could do enough damage before that happened. Dr. Webb's voice crackled over the command channel from his laboratory deep beneath Colorado. "Admiral, I'm reading massive energy buildups from the remaining Dominion ships. They're preparing to bombard the planet." This was the moment everyone had feared. If the aliens decided to destroy Earth rather than capture it, there was little humanity could do to stop them. But Hayes had one more card to play. "Activate the planetary defense grid," she ordered. Across Earth's surface, hidden installations that had been built in complete secrecy came online. The quantum field generators Dr. Webb had designed were much larger than the weapons mounted on human ships. They created massive energy cascades that reached into space itself, disrupting the alien ship's ability to target the planet below. Captain Reed led the human fleet in a desperate charge against the Dominion formation. His ship was tiny compared to the alien dreadnoughts, but the Defiance and her crew fought with a fury that stunned their enemies. Human pilots flew suicidal attack runs, ramming damaged ships into alien hulls when their weapons ran out of power. Lieutenant Torres, Reed's tactical officer, called out damage reports as enemy fire began finding its mark. "Sir, we've lost 12 ships. The converted civilian vessels can't take much more of this." Reed knew they were running out of time. The human fleet was brave, but it was also vastly outnumbered. They needed to strike a decisive blow before the Dominion could organize. "An effective counterattack. Target the flagship," Reed ordered. "If we can take down their command ship, maybe we can break their formation." The Defiance turned toward Ambassador Krell's massive vessel, dodging energy beams that could have vaporized entire city blocks. Reed's crew worked with desperate efficiency, knowing that this attack would probably be their last. But as they approached the alien flagship, Reed noticed something strange. The ship's weapons were not firing at full power, and its movement seemed sluggish. The quantum cascade weapons were still affecting its systems, making it vulnerable. "All power to forward weapons," Reed commanded. "We're going to ram right, through their shields." His crew looked at him in shock. Ramming an alien dreadnought was certain suicide. But Reed had studied the intelligence Dr. Stone had gathered about Dominion ship designs. The flagship's command center was located near the front of the vessel, protected by multiple shield layers but potentially vulnerable to a direct assault. "Sir, that's suicide," Torres protested. Reed smiled grimly. "Maybe, but if we can take out their command structure, the rest of their fleet might retreat. Besides, we didn't come here to live forever." The Defiance accelerated toward the alien flagship, every weapon firing at maximum power. The ship's hull groaned under the strain as enemy fire hammered against its shields. Sections of the vessel were torn away by energy beams, but Reed kept the ship on course. At the last moment, something unexpected happened. The alien flagship's shields collapsed completely, overwhelmed by the quantum weapons that were still disrupting its power grid. The Defiance punched through the hull like a spear, penetrating deep into the enemy vessel. Reed found himself and his surviving crew members inside the alien ship, their vessel embedded in the flagship's superstructure. Emergency lights flickered. In the twisted wreckage, and alien atmosphere hissed through broken bulkheads. "Boarding parties, prepare for assault," Reed ordered. If they were going to die, they would take as many enemies with them as possible. The human soldiers who had survived the impact were equipped with experimental armor based on captured alien technology. They carried plasma rifles that Dr. Webb's team had built using Dominion power cells. As they advanced through the enemy ship's corridors, they fought with a determination that had never been seen in the galaxy before. Ambassador Krell waited on his bridge, surrounded by his elite guards. He had ruled entire star systems and commanded fleets that could destroy civilizations. But as he watched human soldiers cutting through his defenses, he felt something he had not experienced in centuries: fear. The battle for the flagship would determine the fate of both species. 18 months after the battle for Earth, the galaxy had changed forever. Word of humanity's impossible victory spread across thousands of star systems, carried by traders and refugees who could hardly believe the stories they told. For the first time in 3 millennia, someone had not only resisted the Galactic Dominion, but defeated them in open combat. On the prison world of Katos, a mining slave named Jorik heard the whispered tales from newly arrived human prisoners. They spoke of ships that appeared from nowhere, of weapons that turned Dominion technology against itself, and of soldiers who fought with a fury that terrified their captors. The humans had lost the battle, these prisoners claimed, but they had shown the galaxy that the Dominion could bleed. Jorik was not human. His people, the Kelvins, had been enslaved for over 200 years. Like most conquered species, they had long ago given up hope of freedom. But as he listened to the human stories, something stirred in his heart that he had thought was dead forever. The humans were different from other species the Dominion had crushed. They did not accept defeat. Even in the prison camps, they continued to resist, to plan, to hope. Their defiance was infectious, spreading to other prisoners who had forgotten what it meant to fight back. Meanwhile, in the deepest bunkers beneath Earth's surface, humanity prepared for the storm they knew was coming. The Dominion would not forget or forgive what had happened. Emperor Vrex himself, the ancient ruler who had conquered half the galaxy, had declared humanity a threat to be eliminated completely. Dr. Webb worked frantically in his laboratory, surrounded by alien technology salvaged from the battle. His quantum weapons had worked better than expected, but he knew they would not be enough next time. The Dominion would adapt, would bring ships specifically designed to counter human tactics. "We need something completely different," he told his exhausted team. "Something they've never seen before." The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Stone, still serving as humanity's expert on alien psychology, had been studying the prisoners captured during the battle. She discovered that the Dominion's greatest strength was also its greatest weakness. "They think in straight lines," she explained to the Emergency Council. "Their entire civilization is built on overwhelming force and absolute control. They can't imagine an enemy that refuses to follow their rules." This insight led to humanity's most ambitious project yet. If they could not match the Dominion's raw power, they would fight in ways the aliens could never predict or counter. Dr. Webb's new research focused on temporal manipulation and dimensional shifting, technologies that would allow human ships to bend the laws of physics themselves. Admiral Hayes coordinated the largest military buildup in human history. Earth's orbital shipyards worked around the clock, building vessels that incorporated every lesson learned from the first battle. The new ships were faster, more maneuverable, and equipped with weapons that seemed impossible even by human standards. But the most important change was in humanity itself. The species that had once been divided by nations and ideologies now stood united against a common enemy. Every human, from scientists to soldiers to civilians, contributed to the war effort. They had seen what the Dominion did to conquered peoples, and they chose death over slavery. Captain Reed, now promoted to admiral after his heroic actions aboard the Dominion flagship, commanded humanity's expanded fleet. The force under his control was still tiny compared to what was coming, but it was no longer the desperate collection of ships that had fought the first battle. These were purpose-built warships, designed by humans who understood both alien technology and human tactics. The Dominion's response came exactly 18 months after the battle for Earth. A fleet of 10,000 ships led by Emperor Vrex's personal armada emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. The force was larger than anything the galaxy had seen in centuries, equipped with weapons capable of cracking planets and commanded by the Dominion's most elite warriors. Emperor Vrex was ancient beyond human understanding, a creature that had ruled the galaxy when Earth civilizations were still using stone tools. His flagship, the Eternal Throne, was the size of a small moon and carried enough firepower to destroy entire star systems. He had come personally to oversee humanity's extinction. But as the Dominion fleet advanced through the outer solar system, they found something they had not expected. The humans were not waiting passively for destruction. Instead, they had turned the entire solar system into a trap. Admiral Hayes watched from her command post on Luna Base as the alien fleet triggered the first of humanity's surprises. Hidden weapons platforms, built into asteroids and planetary moons, opened fire with weapons that bent space itself. The attacks came from directions the aliens had not thought to guard, striking at ships that believed themselves safely behind their own formations. The new human weapons were unlike anything the Dominion had encountered. Temporal displacement beams aged enemy hulls into dust in seconds. Dimensional rifts opened inside alien ships, tearing them apart from within. Gravity wells appeared without warning, crushing vessels that had survived the destruction of entire civilizations. But the Dominion had learned from their first defeat as well. Their ships carried improved shields and weapons specifically designed to counter human tactics. The initial surprise attacks disabled hundreds of alien vessels, but thousands more pressed forward, their guns blazing with the fury of an empire that had never known real defeat. Admiral Reed led the human fleet out to meet them, knowing that this would be the final battle. Either humanity would find a way to defeat impossible odds, or their species would be wiped from the galaxy forever. As the two forces closed for combat, every human ship broadcast the same message across all frequencies. It was a simple statement that carried the weight of an entire species' determination. This is humanity. We do not surrender, we do not kneel, we fight. The battle for Sol was about to begin, and its outcome would determine the fate of the galaxy itself. The final battle lasted 3 years, but it changed the galaxy forever. What began as Emperor Vrex's attempt to destroy humanity became the largest rebellion in galactic history. As news of the fighting reached enslaved worlds across the Dominion, species that had been conquered centuries ago began to remember what freedom meant. Admiral Reed's fleet struck deep into Dominion space, not to conquer but to liberate. Every world they freed added ships and soldiers to their growing force. The Kelvans, led by the former slave Jorik, who had heard human stories in the prison camps, became some of humanity's most dedicated allies. Other species followed, creating a coalition that the Dominion had never imagined possible. The war's turning point came at the Battle of Nexaris, the Dominion's capital world. Emperor Vrex had retreated to his throne world with the remnants of his once mighty fleet, preparing for a final siege. His fortress city covered half a continent, protected by planetary shields and orbital weapons platforms that had never been breached. Dr. Webb had spent months studying the capital's defenses, looking for weaknesses in systems that had protected the Dominion for 3,000 years. The breakthrough came when he realized that Nexaris itself could be turned into a weapon. The planet's massive gravity well, artificially enhanced by Dominion technology, could be reversed with the right quantum manipulation. Admiral Hayes coordinated the attack from the bridge of humanity's newest flagship, the UES Liberation. The ship was a masterwork of human engineering, incorporating technologies that had been theoretical just years before. Around her, vessels from dozens of liberated worlds prepared for the final assault. The battle began in the outer system, where Dominion defense fleets tried to stop the approaching Liberation Armada. But the rebels had learned to fight like humans, using unconventional tactics and refusing to follow the predictable patterns that had served the galaxy for millennia. Captain Sarah Mitchell, commanding a squadron of human fighters, led a desperate attack against the Eternal Throne itself. Emperor Vrex's personal flagship was larger than many asteroids, but Mitchell had studied its weaknesses during months of long-range reconnaissance. "All squadrons, follow my lead," she broadcast to her pilots. "We're going to show this ancient monster what a few determined humans can accomplish." Her fighters dove toward the massive vessel, dodging energy beams that could have powered entire cities. The Eternal Throne's weapons were designed to destroy capital ships, not small fighters, and Mitchell exploited every blind spot in its defenses. Meanwhile, Dr. Webb activated his most ambitious creation yet. Deep beneath Nexaris's surface, quantum field generators began reversing the planet's artificial gravity systems. The massive fortress city that had stood for 3 millennia began to crack and crumble as the very ground beneath it shifted. Emperor Vrex felt his palace shake and realized, with growing horror, that the humans had found a way to turn his own world against him. In all his centuries of conquest, he had never encountered an enemy willing to destroy an entire planet to achieve victory. The Emperor's flagship tried to escape the dying world, but Admiral Reed was waiting. The UES Defiance, Reed's original ship, heavily modified with the best human technology, intercepted the Eternal Throne as it tried to reach hyperspace. "This is for every species you enslaved," Reed broadcast as his ship's weapons charged for a final strike. "This is for every world you destroyed. This is for everyone who died in your camps." The beam that destroyed the Eternal Throne was visible. From orbit, a column of pure energy that cracked the ancient vessel like an egg. Emperor Vrex, the tyrant who had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years, died as his flagship broke apart around him. But the war's end came not from his death, but from the choice his surviving forces made. Across the galaxy, Dominion fleets simply stopped fighting. Without their emperor and his absolute authority, the empire that had seemed eternal began to collapse overnight. Dr. Stone found herself appointed as humanity's first ambassador to the new Galactic Council, a democratic body formed from the ruins of the Dominion. Species that had been enemies for centuries worked together to build something better than the tyranny they had destroyed. The galaxy they created was not perfect, but it was free. Trade flowed between worlds that had been isolated for generations. Science and art flourished as species shared knowledge without fear of conquest. Most importantly, when new threats emerged from unexplored regions of space, they faced not the divided civilizations that the Dominion had ruled, but a united galaxy that had learned the value of freedom. Humanity took its place in this new order not as conquerors, but as teachers. They showed other species that sometimes the only response to tyranny was absolute refusal to surrender. They proved that even impossible odds could be overcome by those who refused to accept defeat. Years later, as Admiral Reed stood on the observation deck of a station orbiting Earth, he watched ships from dozens of worlds coming and going in peace. Children who had been born free played together regardless of their species, while their parents worked to build a galaxy where such freedom would never again be threatened. The Dominion was gone, but its greatest lesson remained. When faced with overwhelming force, when offered the choice between slavery and death, humanity had chosen neither. They had chosen to fight, to resist, to show the universe that some things were worth any sacrifice. The stars themselves seemed brighter in a galaxy where no single empire could claim dominion over all others. And whenever new tyrants arose to threaten that freedom, they would face the united fury of every world that remembered the day a young species from a small blue planet taught the galaxy what defiance truly meant. Humanity had answered the empires, law with fire and fury, and in doing so, they had set the entire galaxy free.